The San Francisco Law Library's legal programs are intended to inform you about topics in the law and are not legal advice. Anyone can use the law library. We have law books, free databases, and can suggest resources on real estate law. Contact information and resources, including for this program, can be found in the links below. We are very happy to introduce today's topic and speaker. Here to present Title Clearing 101 is Janet Snyder. Janet is Disaster Real Estate and Racial Justice Coordinator with Legal Access Alameda. Welcome, Janet.
Hi, everybody. I'm Janet Snyder, and I'm here to talk a little bit about title clearing. And the reason why we have a program about title clearing is we're seeing more and more homeowners that are unable to get help or proving ownership of their home. And a little bit about titles is that titles aren't a physical document. Sorry, my slides. There we go. A title is all the legal rights that come with being a homeowner. So if you are legally a homeowner, you're able to sell your house, you're able to refinance, you're able to get disaster aid. You have all the benefits of home ownership. But what happens is that if there are any issues with a title, you end up with something called a clouded title. And a clouded title is when someone or a financial organization has some type of legal claim on your property. So that could be anything from a tax lien, or maybe there's a brother or sister or an heir that thinks that they have a right to your property. Those are things that can cloud your title. A clear title means that you're the owner of the property and there are no claims, there are no doubts that you're the owner or disputes. So if you go to the county office, you would be able to pull up the title records and see that you are the owner. You are the rightful owner. And the other thing is that there are no other interests. So you don't owe, say, property taxes and have a tax lien on your property. You don't owe money to different contractors. So clear title is what we want all homeowners to have, because with a clear title, they're able to have and enjoy all the benefits of being a property owner. And so some of the title issues that we see, as I was talking about, are liens. And a lien is when you owe money, and to say it could be either a person, it can be an organization, or the government. And when you owe that money, the person that you owe the money to can essentially go to the courts and kind of lay claim to your property until you pay back that money. So a claim is, again, just the legal right that somebody may have on your property. And another issue that we mainly see is no proof of ownership. So typically we see issues with not having proof of ownership when people maybe live off the grid and they don't have, say, the typical utility bills that people can use to prove their ownership because, they're using solar or they have their own well. Another issue that we see with proof of ownership is that people, if you're having, say, if there's a wildfire or disaster, you may lose all those documents, and then you're in a position where you're having difficulty proving that you are indeed the owner of the property. And a couple other issues that can lead to a clouded title are title fraud. So something that is sadly becoming more and more common is that people will go into the county recorder's office and submit fraudulent paperwork saying, hey, I'm actually the owner, transfer the property to me. And what'll happen is that the homeowner will go, maybe a year later because they didn't receive, say, the property tax paperwork, and they'll see that they're actually not the owner of their property anymore. And I'll talk a little bit about how to prevent title fraud and things that you can do as a homeowner. Another common title issue that we see are heirs property. So heirs properties are created when a property is passed down through the generations without actually having any paperwork completed for the transfer of the property. And so what will happen is when, say, the grandmother dies, every generation, every person, so every, granddaughter, grandchild will become part owner of that property. So what'll happen is you have a property with, 10, 20 owners, and everybody has to be on the same page if you want to sell the property, if you want to make any changes. and that makes it really difficult. Another thing to know about heirs properties is that if you need, say, help from FEMA, or if you need really any like mortgage assistance or property tax assistance, they're looking for essentially very clear ownership. And when you have an heirs property, you don't have a clear owner since everybody's a part owner. Another issue that happens with heirs property is that if one of the heirs decides to sell the property or their part of the property, that can actually lead to the entire property being put up for auction. And then everybody will end up kind of losing their share. So that is one of the big reasons why we have this program is we want to help people, especially that are in heirs property situations, to be able to prove that that they're the rightful owner of the property. And one of the other issues that we see are encroachments. And encroachments are illegal uses of your property. So maybe your neighbor has their fence line on your actual property, or maybe, there's a tree, or they're, for using your driveway, whatever it may be. Those uses of your property that are not legal can actually end up affecting you in the long run. And so why is it important to have a clear title? So one of the main reasons is we're seeing more and more disasters in California. Even in places that are more urban, we saw, in the winter storms caused a lot of flooding within our cities. And one of the biggest things is that when a homeowner wants FEMA assistance, they need to prove that they are the owner of the property and that they have been occupying the property. So without a clear title, FEMA will deny your application, and they won't be able to help you until you've cleared those title issues. The other reason why having a clear title is important is for property loss prevention. So like I was mentioning with heirs properties, is that when you have more than one owner, you need everybody to agree to make any changes or to do anything to the property. And it is in the owner's, interest to have all the paperwork that they're the owner. And so I'll talk about how you can deal with having multiple owners on your property. Another reason why it's important to have a clear title is that when you have a clear title, you can then pass down your house. So something that'll happen is that if a person doesn't have a clear title, it makes it difficult to pass the house down. And then, you have whoever you've passed the house down now has to deal with all these different title issues that they have now inherited. So what we hope is that we can help homeowners clear these title issues, so that way that when they make an estate plan or a will, they're able to kind of pass down their home without any issues. And attorneys can help. So there are a couple things that a lawyer can help do. The main thing is explain your rights. So a homeowner can tell, so if you're in an heir situation, you want to know kind of what your rights are, or if you have been passed down a property and don't really know where you're at, or if you're a new homeowner and kind of want to know what your rights are, or if somebody, if there's a lien on your property, what you can do. The other thing an attorney can do is check your title status. So they can either guide you through going to the county recorder's office and pulling up that information. An attorney can also help you pull up that information online and help you understand kind of the title history or the issues that may pop up when they do the record search. An attorney can also help determine heirs. So again, in heir properties, things get a little bit complicated, especially when you're dealing with, big families that have had a lot of kids. You have to make sure that every heir has been tracked down and that every heir has maybe, released their interest in the property before you can move forward. And the last thing an attorney can do is, again, make a plan of action. So they can, if they see that you have a lien, they can kind of help you plan on how do you deal with the lien? Do you make a payment plan? They can maybe help you negotiate to pay a lump sum, and then, let you know kind of what the rest of the process will look like. And how to clear a title. So like I mentioned, one of the first things you want to do is go to the county recorder's office to see who the owner of record is. And hopefully that should be you. And if you don't see your name, then that's a really good opportunity to go to a lawyer and just see why you're not the owner of record at the county. And then they can help you, if you have proof that you're the owner, they can help you then establish that you are the rightful owner. So if you have any of those issues, I'll put our contact info at the end so that you can get in touch with one of our volunteer attorneys. So there are a couple documents that are used for title clearing, and I'll go over them. One of the main documents that we use is a quitclaim deed. And so a quitclaim deed is used when you have multiple people that have interest in a property, but maybe one of those people doesn't want interest. So say, you and your brother both are partial owners to the property, but the brother doesn't care for it. They would sign a quitclaim deed. And that's essentially saying, hey, I transfer, my part of the property to you. I won't, I don't want anything to do with it. And the nice thing about a quitclaim deed is once a person releases their interest in the property, you don't have to worry about them kind of coming out of the woodwork in 10 years and saying, hey, I'm actually interested in the property. It makes it so that they release their interest and you can be worry free. A grant deed is essentially a document that we use when we're looking back at your kind of chain of at the record of who the owner is. And it is signed by a previous owner, essentially guaranteeing that they didn't create any liens or create any issues that may be clouding your title. And the last document that we use, perhaps I think one of the most common or important, is an affidavit of heirship. And we use that in situations where there isn't, especially in heirship properties where there wasn't a will that had, the clear wishes of that person. An affidavit is something that the current owner can sign and state that they are the current owner, they have proof, and that is a sworn statement, and that can actually be used as proof of ownership. So there are a couple things that you can do to protect your title right now and going forward. And one of the main things is to prepare a will and to have an estate plan. So preparing a will essentially dictates how you want your assets to be split when you pass away. And the nice thing about a will is that really eliminates any questions about when the property is passed, it'll make it easier for the heirs or the beneficiaries to have a clear instruction on who gets what. And a couple things for a will to be lawful: you have to be at least 18. You must sign it and you must have some witnesses. One of the things about a will is that a will would go into probate, which means that when you do pass, the will has to go through the court system, and the court system will then verify that your will is accurate, and then we'll go through that process. So that process is a little bit time consuming. The option to kind of reduce the amount of time that things go through court is a transfer on death deed. And a transfer on death deed is essentially a way of leaving your property and having it transferred to a beneficiary or whoever you want at the time of death. And the nice thing is that avoids probate. So it'll be immediate after you pass, and you don't have to wait for the courts to verify everything. And kind of on the same page is an estate plan. So an estate plan is a little bit more comprehensive than planning a will, and having an estate and putting your property in a trust will help kind of reduce, again, that court time. So there are multiple things that you can do so that when you pass your property on, when you pass, your beneficiaries don't have to deal with any clouds on their title or any issues in the court system. And one of the main reasons why you want to make sure that your documents and everything look good are for disasters, because unfortunately, disasters are becoming more and more commonplace. And when a disaster hits, the last thing that we're thinking of is packing up all our documents. So we really encourage everybody to have these documents ahead of time, to make copies, to upload them to a cloud. So that way, if a disaster does happen and you unfortunately lose all the proof of ownership, you do have some backup copies that you're able to then provide to FEMA or to, whatever organization is providing aid. So a couple things, take pictures. You can always email yourself those pictures, and then you'll have them, on your email. A lot of places like Google or Microsoft provide some type of free cloud storage, so you can always upload your documents there. And again, always having a physical copy, you can slip them in your go bag, and that way, if you do have to evacuate, you have a copy of your important documents. And so, if the situation does arise that your documents are destroyed after a disaster, and you don't know how to replace them, there are a couple places that pop up that you can get help after a disaster. So the first place that you can go when a disaster occurs is a local assistance center. And local assistance centers are typically hosted by the city or the county where the disaster occurred. And they typically have a wide array of services that you can get help. So if if you lost your birth certificate, death certificate, divorce records, you can get those there. They also typically invite, say, the utility companies. So if you need, say, copies of your latest utility bills, you can get those there. So they're able to help with vital documents. And a disaster recovery center, those typically you see when a disaster has had a FEMA declaration. So if the president declares that the disaster will provide aid to individuals, then the disaster recovery centers are set up as a place where disaster survivors can go meet up with FEMA and get help. And they have a lot of the similar services. So if you again lost all your paperwork, they should be able to help you get your ID, your utility bills, and kind of all the basic paperwork that you need to get aid. And I'll be talking a little bit about FEMA self-certification. So, this is for the situations where, you lost all your paperwork. Maybe you've been living off the grid, or, you don't really have too much proof that you're the owner. So they do take a couple different sets. So for FEMA, you have to both prove that you occupy the building and that you're the owner. So a couple things that they take for occupancy are things that have your address and your name. So your registration, maybe any court documents. They also take letters. So maybe excuse me, maybe somebody from a town, like the mayor, they can write a letter stating, hey, I actually know this person. They've been living here for 10 years. Please help them out. They're sorry, let me please pause this. And the other things that they can help with are proof of ownership. And proof of ownership is really helpful because a lot of times, you lose all this paperwork. So again, self-certifications are really handy. So those are, again, those statements saying, hey, I live here, I've lived here for a certain amount of years. And the other things that you can use are, again, public official letters. So if any of the mayors or anything, you're able to then get a letter from them stating, hey, I know that X has been living here for a certain amount of time, and I'm vouching for them. The last thing that they'll take are receipts for repairs. So maybe, you needed a new foundation, or you put in a substantial amount of money into a property. Having receipts for that and any proof that you've put in money can also be used to prove that you're the owner. So how to get help. So if you do find yourself having any title issues, or you're not able to prove that you're the owner of your property, you are able to get help. And one of the things that you can do is complete our intake form. What will happen is you fill out the form, you provide information about where you live and kind of, who's been paying property taxes and just some basic things about your situation. And then one of our attorneys will call you, get some more details. That way we can match you up with a volunteer that has expertise in that area. And then you should be able to meet with the volunteer. The volunteer will then provide you with steps. So, if you need to go to court or if you need to file certain documents, they'll give you an idea of what documents you need to file, kind of what processes need to happen, whether a will needs to go to probate. And then they'll essentially give you a roadmap of things to complete, and hopefully you'll be able to have a cleared title. So this is our website, so dlac.wiki/intake. And again, I'll have this at the end. And you can also scan this QR code and it'll open our intake form. So I have a couple additional resources. These are for people that have been affected by disasters, but maybe don't have a title issue. California Free Legal Answers provides help for any disaster-related legal issue and COVID-19 legal issues. So if you are having insurance issues, if you're having FEMA issues, and the issues aren't related to title, you can go to California Free Legal Answers. It's a website. You type up your question, and an attorney will be able to write back a response. And our disaster legal assistance helpline is a phone line where you can call, you leave a message, you give them a brief description of your legal issue, and an attorney will call you back with some advice. So those are two good disaster legal assistance programs. And again, if you need any legal help, our attorneys are able to help check your title status. If you have multiple heirs, they can help you determine heirs so that you can see, who you need to contact to get a quitclaim deed so that they can release their interest in your property, allowing you to be the rightful owner. Attorneys can also help you draft legal documents. So if you find yourself in a situation where, you need to go to court, they can help you draft those documents. An attorney, again, can also help you negotiate. So if you owe money, and they can go to court and say, hey, can we reduce it or can we make a payment plan? So that way you're able to pay off that lien and get that removed from your title, and you can enjoy the benefits of being a homeowner. So that's all I have. I want to thank you all for being here, and I'm happy to take questions. I see that there's some in the chat. I see that we have some information in the chat. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you so much, Janet. So we also have some links that you can see in there, including for disaster legal and to the slides for today's program, which will also be posted on the library's website, or you can just email us to get them.
I put my email in the chat if you have any questions, or if you know anybody that might benefit from this. A lot of people aren't aware that, that they need to have, that they don't even have that paperwork. A lot of people think, oh, I got the house from my grandma and, everything should be okay in the city. So it's definitely worth checking out, what the county recorder has on your property. And again, if you see that you're not the owner, please let us know. We're happy to help. We are a statewide program, so we can help in any county in the state. We can help anybody, even if they're undocumented. So, please let us know if you have any questions or if you need any help.
Thank you so much. And then for those who are watching this on YouTube at a later time, there'll be links below the video. Please check those out.